us on what we can expect from this cohort. So, Craig, can you take it away, please?
Hi. Yes. Hey, can you guys hear me? Hands up if you can hear me.
Yes, sir.
Use your little hand thing in GoToWebinar. Thank you very much. I see a lot of familiar names in the list here, which is good. Some people I just saw like a couple days ago. A lot of unfamiliar names, which is also good because I don't want this just to be an echo chamber. So just to get started, this is, if you're in the wrong place, this is a really weird place to be. This is the kickoff meeting for the xAPI Design Cohort Season 3. I say Season 3 because I had a difficult time remembering what year and what month we started the first and second one. So we're talking seasons now, so you should get on board with that. My name is Craig Wiggins. I am the Community Manager with ADL. On the line, you heard Andy Johnson, who is Senior Software Engineer. We've got a couple other people from ADL on as well. I believe we've got Jason Haig, John O. Poltrak, and Tyler Mulligan, all three of whom have been involved with the xAPI design cohorts in the past. So you're hopefully in good hands. All right, let's go and get started. So if you don't know who we are ADL, Advanced Distributed Learning Initiative, rather. We were started to provide the access to the highest quality education and training for our warfighters, the U.S. warfighters. Out of that relationship came SCORM, so you're welcome for that. But if you know, we're not here really to talk about SCORM. We could do that all day. We're here to talk about the Experience API. And the people will be handling the design cohort in general will be myself and Andy Johnson. So we'll give you our contact information at the end of this presentation, but just know that we're probably the people to go to with any questions or concerns about this program. So before we get into the design cohort itself, talk about what you're doing here. So now you got hands down, etc. Why don't we do this? How many of you heard of this, I guess, event through word of mouth? Put your hands up. Someone told you that this was going on and you thought it was a good idea. Good, good, I'm glad. That's good because we always want a lot of people to, we're hoping that our grassroots efforts to get out to people and let them know what's going on, are effective. So I'm glad to see that. Hopefully all of you are here because you want to get involved with the Experience API specification, but you're not sure how to do that. Or maybe you're not developers, but you want to get your hands dirty as a designer and figure out what you can do. Maybe you're here because you heard that the Experience API is the next generation of SCORM, which is something we'll talk about in subsequent meetings, I'm sure. Those are good reasons. I am here personally because I was once in your position. I was once someone who was not a member of ADL. I was on the other side of this microphone. I was a participant in the first xAPI design cohort, and I was really interested. And fortunately for me, a year later, I was on the other side of the screen, working with ADL to administer the design cohort. So it was a real benefit for me. So I hope to continue that tradition by making it worthwhile for you. Okay, so for those of you who don't know what the Experience API is, I'm actually kind of curious what you're doing here if you don't know what that is, but we're going to do a brief overview and talk about what it is and maybe what it isn't. So the Experience API is a way to track learning experiences. Now at the bottom of the screen it says tracking experiences, not just completions. So in contrast to SCORM, which tracks completions and initializations, and scores, really the last score associated with a course, a web-based course. The Experience API was created to track all learning experiences, no matter what kind of device or platform you're using. We'll talk more about that in a bit. The Experience API was developed by an open source community. The ADL, in partnership with through a BAA with our Rust-C software, created the Experience API. And it's not simply a partnership between those two organizations. Many, many hands were involved in the making of this specification, and it was brought into the world with the express purpose of meeting some of the questions and the concerns people had in the learning and development community about how to move on and how to do more with our learning technology. It puts gaming, mobile, and virtual worlds into play. What I mean by that is that it is, because it works with any platform, whether it's connected to the internet or not, for the duration of the experience, it is something that can drag or bring in things that have been used in learning settings for the past 10 years, but have not been able to express themselves in terms of learning experiences under the demands of SCORM. So that's hopefully a one-up. As you know, and I'm going to kind of gloss over this really quickly, Experience API is expresses experiences through actor, verb, object. So Nicholas attended IPSEC, attempted the War of 1812 Part 1, etc. So there's many permutations of how you can kind of tack things on, or what kind of verbs you can use. In fact, the types of verbs that one uses in that green space there have a lot to do with how and in what circumstances you're transmitting learning experience information. We'll talk about that in subsequent meetings. Finally, the Experience API is basically a way to go from knowledge to experience. So I think everyone's probably familiar with this image here. Much as a software designer or developer rather has to spend a certain amount of time understanding, and really experiencing platforms and situations in order to gain wisdom, we're trying to basically pull out those experiences and put them into the light for people to examine. So what we came to talk about, what is the xAPI design cohort? Well, I'm going to speak to you as an instructional designer. The problem with the xAPI, let me back up and say that it's a really great new specification. I think it's really designed, it's really starting to come into its own in 2015 as the kind of specification that we were hoping would be leveraged. But it's a new specification, and we've been using SCORM for a long time, even if we don't fully understand it. As an instructional designer, when I'm in ADL meetings, or even before I was part of ADL, I have noticed that there's a lot of talk about theoretical constructs associated with the Experience API, but not many accessible examples. We've had many webinars, some of which we ourselves have put on, which show people using the Experience API, but not exactly getting into the guts of implementation. And more importantly, I feel that designers have been left out of meaningful interaction with the specification. Moreover, I would say, or I would posit, that instructional designers' sensibilities are shaped by SCORM, whether they know it or not. And this is something I get into arguments about all the time, which is kind of disheartening. But SCORM, whether or not you understand how it shapes your design sensibilities, does. Things that cannot be accomplished through SCORM, oftentimes within many learning and development contexts, they don't get done because it's just too difficult, not just to build, but also to design for. So we're hoping to give you a low-stakes opportunity to deal with that and to broaden your horizons. So the solution is this design sprint. Back in 2013, a proposal was put forward. I believe Aaron Silvers and Andy Johnson were the first cohort leaders. So we've had 12 teams and more than 60 participants in the initial one. It was roughly 9 weeks. Importantly, ADL or teams that participate in the xAPI design cohort retain their intellectual property. That means that ADL doesn't get anything. We don't own anything that anyone does in the xAPI design cohort. We just want to see it happen. So the natural question that I get a lot when I talk about this is, what does ADL get out of this? Well, we get two main things, other than the joy of watching you work. We get access to your creativity. We get to see how a particular group would tackle a problem, many problems that we didn't even know existed, using the Experience API. I had a really great interaction with a group that got started on the design cohort early. They started their meeting yesterday. They met for the first time yesterday, and they're working on a project that I would not have thought to plumb myself, but I'm very happy to see that they are, and that they'll be pushing that forward for the larger learning community. The other thing we'll be getting is your insight, such as how should xAPI be used to support ADL stakeholders and the larger learning and development community. Again, we are, I would say that Andy, Jason, Jonathan, Tyler, Marcus, Jono, the rest of us here at ADL, we're all I mean, not to toot our own horns, we're smart people, but we're smart people sitting in rooms, oftentimes talking to each other. We're pretty smart, but we're not smarter than all of you. So we're hoping to harness the power of the community to bring us all forward and to help everyone. So statistics thus far regarding the design cohort. We've had 2 design cohorts so far, the summer of 2013 and I believe the spring of 2014. We've had 400 people total registered, which is actually interesting because for this call alone that we're doing right now, I think we had like 440 registrants for just this webinar, which is crazy. We've had 160 participants and 80 finishers. So you'll notice here a trend of sort of whittling down to the people who were really dedicated. We started with 9 weeks, and I think we realized in the second design cohort that wasn't going to work, and we upped it to 14 weeks, and that's what we'll be doing this time. We'll be doing a 14-week sprint. So in the first design cohort season, we covered a number of projects. Most notably, well, maybe not most notably, actually these are all pretty notable, but we had an LMS, LCMS, LRS, mobile integration. Sean Putman famously worked on the, I believe, the analyzing expert versus new user behavior in a software environment. That's one of our featured examples. There was an xAPI and Twitter mashup that I thought was really interesting, and I think we'll have a link for that later. In the second design cohort, we had some people jump on and go a bit further. There was the famous EPUB and xAPI integration, started with the ADB, Actionable Databook Project, something, by the way, which is still ongoing. Those meetings are happening. I think a meeting just happened today, in fact. And that group is going to, I think, going to be coming back for more this time. We had a group start to work with xAPI and Open Badges, and we kind of hope that they'll pick that up again. We had a really interesting WordPress plugin to track embedded YouTube video experiences, which was very interesting. We also saw the rise of participation from some far-flung teams. We had a team that was in Taiwan that has been doing some very impressive work in the Chinese language xAPI community of practice. We'll talk a bit more about that later. At the end of season 2, we realized that we need to cap it off, not just with presentations of what people did and kind of patting ourselves on the back, but we decided to get everyone together and not just do presentations, but get other people together to learn more. So we had a series of workshops on xAPI design and development over a 2-day period in Orlando, Florida, June of last year. So the pictures you're seeing on the screen are some scenes from that event in our ADL office in Orlando, Florida. In the bottom right there is me with 2 of the participants from our Taiwan group. It's one of my favorite pictures because I don't know when we'll see those guys in the States again, but they have done, this was one of my favorite events of 2014, and I hope to replicate that as a capper for the xAPI design cohort this year for season 3. Finally, before we get into what's next, I want to talk about bounties. One change that we have this year is, in the past we've had groups show up with projects that they wanted to work on, or we would have people register, and those people would register to, just to be part of this, and then we would match them up into groups and get them started. And that's still the case. If you have a team of people that wants to work on something, I imagine that the Actionable Databook group will be one of those groups. That's definitely fine. You'll come with a project. But we are actually currently in the process of soliciting bounties. Now, bounties are, there's not necessarily any money involved. We certainly don't have any money to give, but they are things that we or other organizations in the space have identified as things that they would like to see accomplished with the xAPI, or for xAPI to be adopted in their organization, or rather in their community or their context. And we've been soliciting ideas from different organizations, and we will be presenting them to you at our next meeting for selection. Basically groups will select a bounty, or they'll be assigned a bounty depending on the situation, and that's what they'll work on through the process. And then that organization which calls for the bounty will decide what the the bounty payoff will be. It could be mentioned in their newsletter or on their website, or it could be coming to the boot camp itself and recognizing these people. That's up to the bounty holder. But the people who have taken the bounty will be working on that project and will be reporting weekly along with everybody else. So we'll talk a bit more about that later, but that's just a new wrinkle we have to this, just to try to move the entire process of improving the Experience API accessibility for the entire community. So let's go through a few. I know that you probably have some questions right now. I can see the question pane, and that's a good question, Andrew Downs. How far did the xAPI Open Badges group get? Well, we can answer that. But before that, I want to cover a couple frequently asked questions so that when we get to the full question point, maybe I will have covered a few of those. So let's see. How long is the xAPI design cohort? Well, it is 14 weeks, over a period of 14 weeks. So we'll be meeting Thursdays, so clear your calendar, starting February 5th, and we'll be going through, I believe, March 14th, 2015. And then we have tentatively scheduled the boot camp for, I believe, July 2015. But we're currently looking at that right now. We should have an answer for you very soon. The question of why, the people have asked me in the past, why would I want to do this? Well, that's a good question. Because it's a new specification, this is probably the best low-stakes, low-stress, high-yield environment for people who want to explore the possibilities of the xAPI, but particularly people who are designers. I want to call out, I want to do a shout-out. I think he's in the audience right now, but I want to do a shout-out to Andrew Downs of Rush C Software. He was one of the pioneers of teaching xAPI to the masses. He is, I think, on his second iteration of the eLearning Guild Introduction to Experience API for eLearning Designers course. And I was able to audit it the first time around. It was a very good course, and I'll say that one of the things that I learned from that experience is that getting the basics down is good and a necessary part of getting in there, but that will need to be coupled with kind of getting your hands into making things, even if those things are what you can do. So is this free? I get that question a lot, and I guess people think that we're going to take money. We cannot take your money even if we wanted to. We are a U.S. government initiative, so you cannot even pay for my coffee, which is probably good. I like my coffee in particular. But we can't take your money. This is a free thing. Even for the boot camp, that's an event where you'll come down and there may be coffee sitting out for you. I think that's as far as it goes. But this is just a service to the community, but I'm not going to lie, it benefits us greatly because it helps us make the specification what you need. So we need your help to do this right. So we're hopefully this will be the venue for it. Do you have to know how to develop code? No, you do not. When I first started this, I did not know how to develop any code. I was really a authoring tool jockey, and I would say now I would not define myself as anyone who knows how to program in any way that is acceptable to actual developers. So I don't normally say that out loud. We will group people together with people who do have that capability. If you do know how to develop code, you will have some assistance. We have a variety of templates and examples available on our GitHub site that you can pull from, again, for free. Do you get to keep your work? Yes, you absolutely do. Once again, ADL does not and will not hold any rights to your work. We may possibly ask you very nicely at some future time if you would like to present your work in an ADL event, maybe a webinar that we do or something to kind of publicize what we are providing to the community. But what you work on is yours to keep and to do with as you will. So the last question, I think the last general question I normally get is, can I get some of my coworkers together to form your own team? Yes, absolutely. We love to mix it up with other members of the ADL community. Working on the design cohort with colleagues is a good way to get things done within your organization that are relevant. So if you're trying to introduce xAPI into your organization, this is, again, it's a good way for you to do that and to have a design group or have a group that's focused on your particular problem. In fact, it might even be a good idea to have your organization kind of put its name behind a bounty in order to have that kind of, hold yourselves to it. So, what happens next? All right, well, I'll make this pretty short, and then we can jump into your actual questions and then get started. But first thing, register for the design cohort. So we've got 52 people on the line right now. I'm very happy you're all here. But what you've done so far is you've registered for this webinar. So I hope it's not disappointing. But what you'll need to do next is you will need to register for the actual design cohort itself. So I'm going to go ahead and throw in, just so you can actually copy it, this is the link for registering for the actual xAPI Design Cohort registration. So I'm going to bring that up here so you can see it. So it's just a form. We're going to ask you your name and your preferred email address and how did you find out about it. What are you interested in? What do you hope to accomplish? That sort of thing. So please use the link that's in the box there or in this presentation. And try that again. There we go. And do that and go ahead and register. I'm going to go ahead and release this link out to the larger community soon. We'll go ahead and put that on our website and through Twitter and through the Google groups and all that stuff. So if you didn't get it right now, we'll make it available to you. Please register before the 5th of February because that's when we'll be having our first meeting. So step 1, register for the design cohort, please. Step 2, free up your Thursdays. So traditionally, we have done these meetings on Thursdays from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. These meetings are the general xAPI design cohort meetings where we all get together and talk about what we've worked on for the past week, and it may be someone's time to demonstrate what they've done, etc. So for the next meeting will be the first Thursday. It'll be Thursday, February 5th, and that'll be the first design cohort meeting for real this time. We'll announce the bounties, what you can choose from, that is, or you can submit your own bounties or your own subjects. We'll announce the teams. By then, everyone will have registered, hopefully, and we will have started grouping teams together. If people have submitted as a team, which you can do on the registration page, you can definitely do that, and we'll go ahead and announce the groups of people at that point. We will not name the teams because that's up to you. I think the group that organized yesterday, they already have their name. It's an awesome name. So you guys got to pull your game up. And we'll discuss administration options. One of the things we wanted to do this year is make sure that you didn't spend a lot of time trying to figure out how to talk to yourselves or other people. So we'll definitely help you with that behind the scenes. But we'll discuss the options that we have that we're recommending at that time. The next meeting will be the 12th of February, Thursday the 12th, and we will be presenting the teams. By that time, teams will have names. Teams will be, somewhat organized. They will have hopefully met themselves one time. They will spend time going over or having representatives for those teams tell us, what bounty, problem, or subject matter you have selected. When and where do you meet? So, what time, and how can we follow your work? So you will have a platform of some sort. And at that point, you can ask what resources you need. If you may at that point know that you may need some development help, or you may need someone to kind of explain the specification a bit better, or to talk about what your options are. At that point, that'll be a good time for you to kind of request what you want. Of course, you can always do that by contacting one of us.
Hey, Craig, I believe some people are asking what time on each of those days. I believe, did you schedule it for 3 Eastern?
I did.
In the afternoon?
Yes, I apologize. I should have put that on the slide. I'll do that when I throw it up on the web. It is 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. Well, 3 p.m. until we decide to hang up. Each Thursday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So
and then we had one more question that I felt that should probably go right here too. It's about how much time can participants expect to spend on the project each week?
That's a good question. I actually answered that one in a meeting I had with an augmented reality group recently. So in my personal experience, I would say anywhere between 2 hours a week. Anywhere between a half hour a week to as many hours as you want. It depends on. I would say you should at least dedicate 1 hour a week to have the general meeting. But of course, if you're not doing anything but going to the general meeting, you're probably not getting a lot done. You're probably just an observer, and that is fine. We're absolutely cool with observers. But if you're working on a project, you'll be budgeting anywhere between another half hour to 2 hours to 5 hours a week, depending on things. Actually, I'd love to. Since I was part of the first design cohort, I'd love to hear from someone in the crowd who participated in one. So I'm actually going to unmute John Costa. I'm going to unmute you in a moment. Or actually, I'm going to unmute you just now, and I'd like to hear from you what your experience was like. Yeah, John, go ahead.
All right. Am I coming through?
Yeah, you're coming through fine. How much time did you spend last
we had one group meeting, 1 hour per. Well, actually, it lasted 2 hours a week. We had it on a Monday evening, And what we found was that even at that 2 hours a week, they were working sessions. It was not enough time. So that 2 hours a week plus the 1 hour spent with everyone else in the general meeting wasn't enough to accomplish things. So you definitely have to budget, especially development and stuff like that, a couple of hours at least extra outside of those periods of time to make some continuous progress.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Thanks, John.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and this is one of the reasons, and thanks, Andy, for surfacing that question, and thank you to whoever asked it, all of you. So I want to make something clear, and not to sound scary, but from my own personal experience and what we learned from working with people, and John, I think, is a perfect example, having been part of the Actionable Databook group. I'll get that name right one day. There is a certain amount of time that's dedicated. The reason we're having this kickoff meeting rather than do what we did in the past, which is jump right into the cohort and have people already registered, is I want to let people know what they're in for. If you want to observe and kind of check in, that is cool. We love to spread information about xAPI that way. If you want to create something, you'll need to put in some work, and that depends on what project you pick and what kind of milestone you're trying to get to. So I can say, in contrast to John's experience, my own experience in the first design cohort, I spent about an hour a week, other than the main meeting, working on things. So it definitely varies depending on what your goals are. So thanks, guys. So step 3, I think, would be to catch up on past projects. So I'm just showing 3 of them here, but we have many others, and if you contact us, we can get you in contact with people and links and things like that. I'll probably have to create another page on the website, so note to myself. A couple that I'm showing here, these are from both cohorts. There's one, the xAPI meets Twitter example, whereby they were using basically creating xAPI statements using Twitter. That link leads to a Prezi, which includes a video and a bunch of other information. I definitely recommend checking that out. Don't worry about copying these links down, by the way. I'm going to put this, I'm going to go ahead and make sure that this presentation gets to everybody who signed up for this webinar. We'll send it out that way, and you'll be able to access the links that way. Otherwise, it'll be up on our website. The next one is the Analyzing Expert and Novice Behavior, done by Sean Putman. That was one of the Vanguard projects, I think, and still a really good example. The link there links to our friends at Tin Can API, Rusty, who did a 2-part series on his project. Pardon me. Finally, the Actionable Databook group, their ebook and xAPI integration. The link there is to a presentation that they did in June of 2014. Although I'd recommend contacting Tide Richards or John Costa or a number of other people who were involved in that project to get the lowdown on what's going on right now. That's step 3. Step 4, join the community. So you've registered now, you've checked out a few examples. What I would recommend you do, if you haven't done it already, is go ahead and join the xAPI Design Cohort Google group. So that group, and I'm actually going to put that link in the chat window because I think that's important for people to go and start signing up for right now if you haven't done so already. This is the way by which we have disseminated a lot of information about the design cohort. In fact, this is probably how we'll be communicating with people is through this Google group rather than sending a bunch of emails that way. Now, the Google group does send emails, so you'll be getting that, but if you want to go directly to the site, you can always do that. That being said, we're just not going to be, once we have the group of people who are part of the cohort, we'll be communicating with them through the Google group pretty specifically, so as not to clog other people's email inboxes. While you're at it, please check out the specification Google group and the Google group for the community xAPI community of practice. I think Jason Haig is on right now. He has probably been, he and I, but Jason in particular has been the driving force behind organizing that community of practice. Please check that out. I think a lot of what the communities of practice have been working on now will be relevant to what some of you are doing. So I really think that that's something that you should probably definitely check out. That we probably talk about at the next meeting. And finally, the ADL GitHub. We have the specification itself is up there, so is the LRS, and the Form to xAPI wrapper, which I think will be of interest to many of you who are embarking on projects. Contact us to propose bounties. So you can contact Andy Johnson or myself. we're definitely open to that, but make sure to get yourself registered and follow steps 1 through 4 before proposing bounties. We're looking for that information, and we will have some of our own. We'll be making those public shortly before our next meeting, and then we'll be discussing them at the meeting on the 5th. Finally, thank you. Thank you for being here, all 52 of you. We're really looking forward to this year. We want to see how many people actually register for this, and we can get started. But I think it's fair to say that your forebears in seasons 1 and 2 did a lot of really good work, and a lot of really good discussions came out of that that have literally influenced the path of xAPI up to this point. And we hope that this season has an even more impactful presence in the community and is able to actually get things done, both for themselves and for other people. So I am going to open it up, or we're going to open it up to questions, I think, at this point. So I'm going to step back from the mic and let Andy step back in.
Okay, so we've answered most of the questions in line. So the other one that's another very good question is, can you participate in the boot camp if you do not join the cohort?
Yes, you can do that. In fact, that was absolutely the case last year. I would say that a good half the people who were at the boot camp at that time were not part of the cohort.
So you don't necessarily get a presentation slot if you're not part of the cohort or haven't been in the past.
That's true. We'll brand you.
So we won't restrict. I mean, you'll get first crack at registration if you're in it. And last year we were able to open it up afterwards and identify again. But if you were hoping to present, those slots would definitely go to design cohort participants present first, then probably past, and then non-participants.
Let's see. We've got a couple questions here that that you've answered, I think, here in the questions pane. So a lot of people have already done that. Yes, in the future. So if you don't mind, Andy, I was going to address one from Christine today.
Oh, absolutely. Go ahead.
And thank you, by the way, Christine, for being here. In the future, make it earlier if you want European participants. Yeah, that's been a thing. That's something we may actually. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and punt. We're going to discuss it once we have a registered group of people. Starting on the 5th, that's something we can discuss as a group. Actually having possibly 2 sessions. So that we have a meeting group for people in the morning, our European crowd, and then to repeat some of that information for the later crowd later in the day. So that's a good point. That's something we need to discuss as a group once we find out who is actually registered. Are you providing an LRS for use or testing? Or do we need to find another one? That's a good question, Anthony. And I think Andy answered that by saying that you're free to use any LRS you like. There's been a lot of really good ones that I learned about as a result of the Design Cohort. A public version of ours is available at lrs.adlnet.gov, and you can find that also through our GitHub. John Costa asked, how do we apply for the $15,000 bounty? John, when you find out, let us know. We will work on that ourselves. If we start our own team, Adam Weisblatt asked, if we start our own team with work colleagues, but we don't have strong coding skills in the group, we'll be able to do it. Yes. That has been the case in the past. We have worked to get people together with people who do have the coding skills to get things done. In the event that does not happen, we cannot find a way to make that work and not have cross-pollination happen, what we'll do is we may have to revise your project so that it's more on the design rather than the development side, but we have not really had that problem up to this point. I think we've always managed to make it work. So, yeah, here's to that. Here's to our ability to kind of Jason. Philip St. Ors, that's a new name, asks, I am new, so this might not be appropriate. That's my favorite type of question, Philip. Is there a central repository of available training content, or is there a mechanism to store training content? So I think that's a matter of asking, do we have, is what we're working on stored in a particular place in general? I think that's what you're asking, Philip. Each of the individual teams will have their own platform or way to store not just conversation and collaboration, but also the fruits of their efforts. For example, I would say the just to use the actionable data book group, and I cannot do that, ADB group. In the past, what they did is they used the Google Plus community, which worked out really well. They were able to, hold conversations there, store documents, a link to their YouTube demos, and then, share those with other people. So that was a really good way to do that. Whether there's going to be a central location for all of these things in the future, that remains to be seen by the group as a whole. Finally, I think Andrew Downs asked, how far did the xAPI Open Badges group get? So I would say they got somewhat far. I think it was one of those things that ended up becoming somewhat aborted, to use a weird term, due to real life. So I would recommend, and I'm going to just call him out, I'm going to recommend talking to Ben Betts about that. My understanding is that, Ben Betts actually created a xAPI community of practice focused on open badges, so I'm very excited about that. I would hope that people involved in that group could get together, register for the design cohort, and start a project under our umbrella. That would be wonderful. I am a big fan of xAPI plus open badges plus competency framework, so yeah, get in there. Any other questions or anything else? No? Andy, do you have anything?
No, I'd encourage people to register. It's really a fun experience. Share the registration link with other people. You by no means needed to attend this to be allowed into the group, so share it out. Craig and myself and other ADL people will be here to help you along the way with any questions you have, or even sit in on some of your meetings to provide implementation details or ideas of what to work on. But overall, it's a fun process, so please don't be afraid to register.
Oh, one more question. Naomi Malone asks, can I bring in company members after I have already individually registered? Yes, I would say so. We know that it takes a little bit of time to get organized, and honestly, in the past, we've had people jump from team to team once they realized what interests they had. Yes, you can do that. I would obviously say, just for the sake of organization, do that as soon as possible. If you registered individually using the link that we gave earlier today in the session, you can add people's email addresses there if you'd like, but those can always be taken off. After the first meeting on the 5th, we'll do a bit of horse trading and swapping, and you can add people to the list. But we want to have all that settled, and this is my hope. We want to have all that settled by the time we hit the 12th. Groups should be formed, friendships should be bonded, all that kind of thing. Nate, you should have a name, and then the people that you'll be working with, at least starting off, should be on that list. So, and you'll be presenting yourself that day. So hopefully that answered your question, Naomi. Oh, man. A couple more. Registrations are waiting for a meeting. Waiting for a meeting to end. Sorry. I'll get out of here so you guys can do that. Pankaj Agrawal, a veteran, by the way, of the design cohort, is offering up his Grassblade xAPI companion, or LRS, for the design cohort. He can provide a free license. Pankaj, that's very generous. Thank you very much. So I would talk to Pankaj Agrawal. I think if you don't have his contact details, he will. You can go to the xAPI Design Cohort Google group. I'm going to post some notes from this meeting, including that information. And then John Kafka asks, will we have an opportunity to present our project next week in order to recruit participants? Yes. If you've got your stuff together, if you're a group that does, yeah, we'll have time set aside for you to talk about what you're doing and then to pull people to the dark side, to the ADB group. All right. Well, guys, thank you so much for coming, all 50 of you who are on right now. I think this is going to be a great year. We're going to get a lot of things done, and I'm looking forward to taking your suggestions and to offering everything that we as ADL can offer you as far as helping you further the space and helping you make sense of the Experience API. Thank you for being here. Andy?
Thank you, everyone. We'll see you online and hopefully next week.